What is computer? Perfect. Okay. We are on that Chaf, on page 20a, 20a in the middle of the page, by a new Mishnah. So keep in mind that this chapter is talking about those who get malchus. Malchus are lashes. Lashes, halachically, only come on something, on an action that was done, right? Not on a passive thing. So that's, anyways, that's what we're holding. So today's Mishnah is going to bring up things that have to do with cutting hair, with the prohibition of certain cuttings of hair. Okay, certain cuttings of hair, and also other types of damage that we could do to a body, specifically when it comes to mourning the death. Those are the two areas that we're going to be talking about today. So the Mishnah starts, if someone cuts a bald spot on his head. Now, what is that? It's not just that I decided that I want to create a bald spot. That I'm allowed to do. If I want to take a haircut and I decide I want to go totally bald on my head, I'm allowed to do that, no problem. Even if I wanted to fake a bald spot, I'm allowed to do that too. What is it referring to? It's referring to a pasuk in the Torah, where the Torah talks about it. And it's specifically in a case where you do it in a sign of mourning. We're not allowed to do it. The Goyim, the Emorites, if I remember correctly, the Emirim, the Emorites in Canaan, they used to do this, that they would cut a bald spot in their head to show that they're mourning the death of a loved one. And the Torah says we're not allowed to do that. Okay, we're not allowed to mourn in that kind of way. It's interesting because even today there's certain Muslims, I think, that they cut themselves in a show of mourning, even on their head. I've seen like pictures from like Mecca, Medina type of things, where they do such a thing. It could go back all the way to the Emirates. It could go back all the way to the Emirates. It could be, I don't know. But the Torah is very specific that we shouldn't cut our hair, or it's not even cutting our hair. Some would literally rip out a chunk of hair in a show of mourning. So you're not allowed to do that. Now, this is another thing about cutting off your pace. Okay, you're not allowed to cut off your pace, right? We wear pace for a reason, right? To what degree and whatever, the Gemara is actually going to talk about it, so we'll discuss it. Mashchis is a form of destruction. You ever a parent sometimes will call a child a mashchis. It's just destroying, right? So when it comes to the beard, it doesn't say cutting; it says destroying. Okay, keep that in mind because it's very specific. What does it mean? It means that it means a very specific razor type of thing. Anyways, we'll talk about that soon. Also, if someone scratches. Srita achas. So this is also in a form of mourning, that someone literally cuts themselves, scratches themselves very deeply, that they bleed, because of it. So that is srita. So srita achas, one srita, which means one, you literally, but it has to draw blood, right? It could be on the arm, I think, or something like that. And this is ala mace, because in a form of mourning. So we don't do that either. In all of these cases, chayiv, he's liable. He's liable to get malchus, right? Again, malchus is only if there was warning, etc., etc. It's not something that just because it was done. It has to be done on purpose. Can't be done of a mistake or something like that. The Mishnah continues. What if he did one, like there were 5 people that died and he feels terrible about it and he scratches himself really hard, but one scratch, but for 5 deaths. Or 5 scratches for one death, right? For one loved one that passed away or something like that. So the Mishnah says chayav al kol achas v'achas. So if it's 5 deaths and it's 1 scratch, he's liable for 5 sets of malchus. And if it's 5 scratches for 1 death, also he'd be liable for 5 sets of malchus. Now, again, just to reiterate, when it comes to malchus, the doctor says how much he can handle. So even if he's liable to get 5 times 39, the doctor could say this guy you give him 2 lashes he could handle. The 3rd lash it could kill him. So then he only gets 2 lashes out of all of it. But that's right? It doesn't matter. Okay, now if he cuts off his payas, right, by the head, so he's liable for shtayim for 2 lashes, Achas mikan v'achas mikan, right? Because there's two sides of the head, right? And by the way, just so that we understand over here, the Gemara is going to say afterwards that the halacha is when you make it equal from here to here. Okay, that's taking off the pace from here to here, from your forehead to behind your ear. If you take a direct line over there, anything below that is called payas. To make it totally shave it off. Some Chassidim, they keep the payas really long and they never cut that, right? So by us, we just keep it growing, and we don't cut it too short. We don't make it disappear. We don't make it even over there. That's the idea of payas, right? So that it's even in the it's called hakafas. It's the circle around the head, right? So if you did it, so then you did it on both sides. So then it's malchus for each side, right? And that's why it's mechayiv shtayim and al azakon about the beard. Shtayim mikan v'achas milamata. So the Gemara is actually going to discuss, and it's not a clear cut from the Gemara. It's something that's even in halacha discussed very in depth. But when it comes to the beard, there's 5 spaces in the beard. One is definitely over here, and then there's 2 over here, or something like that. Where those 2 spots are is debatable. But that's so. Since if someone did all 5, so then if someone did all 5. So then he would be liable for 5 sets of lashes, right? If he did his whole beard, destroyed his whole beard. That's the idea. If he did it all in one shot, then even if it's the 5 spots of the beard, but if it's all done in one shot, it's only one set of malchus. That's the argument. But here, you have to, the Gemara, the Mishnah, finishes off and it says, you're only liable if it was done with a razor straight to the face. By the way, that's why we're very careful. Even those in Chabad, we're of the opinion that we should leave the beard grow and never cut it. But the Mikra Din, the halacha is that, and you're going to see here in the Gemara, it talks about with a scissor is not a problem, right? Which means that if it's not actually a knife to the face, it's not a problem. Even the modern electric shavers, what are they? They're scissors. Yeah. They just get closer than you're comfortable taking a regular scissor to your face. That being said, and in the yeshivish world, in the frum world, they even discuss which razor would be better, which electric razor would be better because of the intricacies of scissor versus a knife to the face, right? So here the Tanna Kamma continues and says you're not liable on destroying your beard unless you literally take a knife to your face, that it literally touches. It makes a baby face. Really, that's the idea. That says that even if you used a tweezer, right? So it's also destroying your beard. A tweezer is also destroying your beard. But a hitni, I looked in the Mefarshim, tried to figure out it's some sort of thing that they used 2,000 years ago. Some sort of I don't know if Rabbi Steinsaltz brings up over there, but it's something smooth, something that will smoothen out the face, which is the issue over here with a knife on the face. So in those cases, chayiv. That's when you're chayiv with a. So Tanna Kamma says it's only with a knife to the face, right? Rebbe Lezer says that a tweezer and some other smoothing process also makes you liable. The Gemara, Tanu Rabbanon, our rabbis have taught lo yikrechu. So it's interesting that there's 2. I'm just going to tell you a little bit outside. There's 2 psukim that mentions about not cutting your hair in the mourning process of the death of someone, right? So that's the first part of the Mishnah. So it has to, when you say halacha, obviously it has to be based on the Torah. So the Gemara right away brings a pasuk. It's in Chumash Vayikra, and in Chumash Vayikra it says by koyanim. It says la yikrechu karcha, la yikrechu karcha b'reisham. These 3 things that I mentioned in this Mishnah is mentioned in a pasuk in Chumash Vayikra. Now this is talking to a kohen, right? It's talking to a kohen that they shouldn't cut their hair in mourning, and they shouldn't cut their they shouldn't cut their payas, and they shouldn't cut themselves, bleed. Also, in a mourning process, they shouldn't do that, right? So that's what it says. So it says that they shouldn't pull out a chunk of hair in a form of mourning, right? So Yachal, the Gemara continues, Afilu karach arba v'chamesh krichos, even if he pulled out 4 or 5 different locks of hair, right? Lo yechayev el achas. So you might think that if he did it 4 or 5 times, he would only get 1 set of lashes. The Gemara continues, Talmud Makkos karcha. It says lo yikrechu karcha. So which means that you're chayev al kol karcha v'karcha, that you could be liable for lashes for each lock of hair. Then he continues. It says in the pasuk Beroisham that you're gonna pull out a lock of hair Beroisham in your head. Where else are you gonna put? Right? Obviously Beroisham. Ma Talmud Leimar. What's it coming to tell us? This word Beroisham in your head, in a person's head. So he says Lafish and Emar, because it says this. The pasuk that we're referring to is by a kohen. But it says by Yisrael, like this guy to do, like the simu karcha beineinechem lameis. The pasuk, the full pasuk says, "Banim atem Hashem v'kechem," you are children of Hashem, right? And then it continues, like this guy to do, don't intermarry, don't mix. The loisa simu karcha beineinechem lameis, and don't cut yourself between your eyes. Because obviously there was people that did it. It was the Amorim, if I remember correctly, the Amorites, that they used to do this. So don't cut between your eyes. So there it says between your eyes. In our pasuk it says on your head. So since by Yisrael it says only about between your eyes, you might think you might think that a Jew is only liable if he cuts himself between his eyes. Bilvad. From where do we learn that it's also referring to his whole head? Talmud Laimar B'Roisham. Because by the Kohen it says B'Roisham my head. L'Rabbeis Kol HaRoish. This is coming to add not only between the eyes, but his whole head. Okay, so then he says, but the Gemara says, but hold on a second, that pasuk is talking about kohanim. It's not talking about a Yisrael, right? Ainli, ve'ainli, ela b'kohanim. That pasuk is only talking about kohanim. So where do we know for a Yisrael? Not only that, kohen, we can't say that it's by a kohen and also by a Yisrael. We can't say that. Why? Because Sheriba mitzvahs. We know that the Kohanim have more mitzvahs than a Yisrael. So maybe this is one of them, right? Maybe this is one of them. So Yisrael Minai. Where do we know that a Yisrael, right? That a Yisrael, when it says leikirchu karcha, it's referring to his whole head, not just to between his eyes. So the Gemara says that it's a hakish. Nemar kan karcha, nemar la'alon karcha. That it says in both psukim karcha, and we learn from one of the other. Mala'alon, just like by the kohen, chayiv al kol karcha v'karcha v'chayiv al roish kiveinei nayim. Just what are the uniquenesses that we learn from the pasuk by a kohen? That first of all, each lock of hair he becomes liable again, and you're not allowed to do it anywhere on the head, not just between the eyes. So Afkan, so too the karcha by Yisrael, by a regular yid, chayiv al kol karcha v'chayiv al roish kiveinei nayim, that he's liable for each lock of hair and also liable for the whole head, just like between the eyes. Mala'alon al meis, Afkan al meis. So now, how do the pasuk by the kohen? It doesn't say that it's referring to the mourning process, but by the pasuk by Yisrael, it does say. So we learn back. We say just like by the Yisrael, it says that you shouldn't do this in the morning of a death. So therefore, we learned that also by the kohen, it's referring to that idea we're talking about the morning of a mace of a death. Okay. So remember, the Mishnah said, the Braisa said that you're liable for each scratch. Each scratch, you're liable another set of lashes. So the Gemara says, what's the scenario? Explain to me that scenario, right? Heichidami, explain to me this scenario. If you're going to say if you're going to say a person was warned, don't scratch yourself like that, don't draw blood like that because you're going to get lashes, and he just says I don't care and he does it anyway, and then he gets warned again and he does it anyway. It happens 5 times that he gets warned and does it. So pshita, it's obvious. There are 5 different actions. There are 5 different asrais. There are 5 different warnings. Now on Daf Chaf Amud Beis 20b. So what if it's with one warning, and then he scratches, he pulls blood 5 times, 5 different scratches. So mi mechayev, are you really going to say that he's liable? He was only warned once. For one warning, for one asra, he can only get lashes once, right? We learned this, that a nazir, a nazir, a Nazirite is not allowed to drink wine, right? He swears off wine, right? What if he drinks wine? So if he was warned and he says, I don't care, he could get lashes, right? What if he's drinking wine a whole day? If it was only one asra, it's a halacha that he only gets one set of lashes, right? Obviously, and the Brais over there continues, if someone's standing there the whole day telling him, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink, and he's every time he says, I don't care, I'm going to drink. So for each time, he's liable, right? So where is the scenario that our Brais is talking about, where he's going to get lashes 4 or 5 times? Because as the Gemara just explained, if you're going to say that it was warned 4 or 5 times, pshita, that's obvious. And if it wasn't warned, he should only get lashes for once. So the Gemara answers that we are talking in a case where he got one warning. So it seems that the way he was getting the hair out was through some sort of, I don't know, maybe some sort of acid or something like that, that he was putting his finger into this poison, and when he would put it by his hair, it would make the hair fall out. Yeah, so maybe not acid, because acid would burn his finger, but it's some sort of poison that makes the hair fall out. So what does the Gemara say? That he was warned, don't do it, but he takes all 5 fingers and he puts it in, and he touches his hair like that, right? So he says 5 spots that he did it. So he's liable for each one of the 5. That's the Allah. Right? Because now he was warned about each and every one. He did it. You can't tell him that he was only that he only did one, and you can't tell him that he wasn't warned for any of the 5. All 5 he had a warning for him. Okay, so that part of the Gemara we're done with. Now the Gemara says, but how much? What's considered karcha? What's considered taking out hair? Right? You can't just say, I'll take out hair. So if you take out 1 hair or 30 hairs, right? How much is it? So there's a machlokes, obviously. Vikamashir karcha. What's the size? What's the amount of hair for karcha? Rav Huna says, he has to pull out enough hair, or he has to make fall enough hair that you see the skin, right? That you see the skin behind the hair. That's one opinion. Rabbi Yochanan says that it's the size of a gris. A gris is some sort of bean, right? So it's not too small, but it's not too big either. The commentaries say that it is 6 by 6 hairs squared, right? A square of 6 by 6 hairs, it's 36 hairs. That's what a gris is. To see your head doesn't say necessarily how many hairs, because you have to pull out enough hair that you see the skin behind it. Okay, so the Gemara continues. These are Amayraim. These are sages in the Gemara. But the Gemara continues. This is an old machlekes. This is a machlekes that goes back to the Tanaim from the Mishnah already. This is an old machlekes. There's a machlekes Tanaim that says Kamashir karcha. One says kigris. The one says it has to be the size of a bean, and the other one says that you have to be able to see the skin behind it. Rav Yehuda bar Chaviva says that there was a third opinion. Says that there was really 3 Tanaim that had an argument on this. One says the size of that bean that we just mentioned. The other one says that you have to pull out enough that you see the skin behind it. Okay, so that we already learned. What's the third opinion? Just 2 hairs.
Very good point. That's what I was thinking, because some guy has thick hair.
Yeah.
Now they're only going by a square, by an amount of space. That guy, you're pulling out much more hairs to get that face of a bean.
Right.
A guy like me, my hair is thin.
Right.
You're not pulling out that many hairs to get the size of a bean.
Right.
This Rav, he's talking about the number of hairs.
Right.
Not the
Wait, because he's not done yet. But it's interesting that you're bringing it up. And I was thinking about it. L'chora, the reasoning. What's the reason? Why not one? Right? And we're going to see. Actually, it's going to come up soon. The reason is it has to be something chashuv to a person, right? If let's say I'm an Amorite and I'm mourning someone's death, and I pull out one hair, everybody's gonna laugh at me. Well, you're not in mourning. You don't care about the person. You pulled out one hair. Let me show you what it means to mourn. I have pull out a lock of hair, right? And that's the. And you can imagine the competition like that, so to speak. Like someone ripping kriya today. Like, you ripped kriya. Look how I ripped kriya, type of thing. Yeah, it's true that you're right. It's not a laughing matter. But what's a davar chashuv? So different opinions. That a davar chashuv is that someone's going to see that this guy's mourning. So he sees that there's a patch missing, right? It doesn't matter how many years. There's a patch missing. That's a davar chashuv. That's already considered to be a considerable amount. The other guy says, no, but like it has to be the size of a bean. That's not just that you see a little bit of the skin, a decent amount, right? The size of a bean. No one says, no, 2 years is already a davar chashuv. One, maybe not. You're right, one is not. But 2 years, right? And that's, by the way, and it's going to see soon, when it comes to Shabbos also, you're not allowed to pull out hairs on Shabbos, right? And
I think the 2 hairs have to be one next to the other probably, because they have to fall out any.
So falling out even on Shabbos, by the way, pious people, I wish I was this pious, are very careful not even to stroke their beard on Shabbos, because inadvertently you could be pulling out a hair, which happens to me all during the week. Shabbos, I try to be careful, but during the week, I have this like twitch. You see me giving classes, right? I touch my beard all the time, and then sometimes I look down, I'm like all the dead ends, of the beards, they fall out.
That's when you were young, you were hoping it would grow faster. So
maybe that's what it is.
Get longer.
Maybe. No hope for me.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, now it filled out. It's not longer, it filled out. Yeah. So
I always used to
yeah, maybe. So there's a story the Alter Rebbe, Shulchan Aruch, he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, right? That one time he put his fingers into his beard in the middle of Haregin. He left his fingers like that the whole Shabbos. Think about it. Today, something we wouldn't even be able to think about controlling, right? The Rebbe was in full control. The mistake was that he put he had a big beard like this, right? So he put his fingers in. Okay, that's it till after Shabbos. Because what happens if I pull it out? Maybe. Not that it will happen, but maybe, right? And it does happen. We know that it does happen. Anyways, that's so the question is, what's a davar chashuv, right? So when the Torah says you're not allowed to do something, so I did something and it's inadvertent, so you're not allowed to carry on Shabbos. My pockets have lint inside from the dryer. It's not called carrying. You have to carry something that you care about, right? Even if it's something that I don't care about, it's not called carrying, by the way. So I have something in my pocket. Sometimes I heard this concept that if you're carrying something, don't care about it, even after Shabbos. That way, lemafreya, what you carried on Shabbos. Like if penny's not a good example, but it's like it was a receipt I had from the store. It was in my pocket. After Shabbos, I'm throwing it out. I don't care about it. Maybe I would have cared about it, but now I don't want to care about it because I want to make it as a davar, not a davar chashuv. So it doesn't matter that it would happen to have been there. I don't care about it. You're only liable for something that you cared about, right? So do I care about 1 year? No. But do I care about 2 years? What as soon is going to tell you a scenario where you do care about 1 year, right? And therefore, the halacha would be different in that kind of case. So that's where the argument, that's the source of the argument. What's a davar chashuv, right? And that's why they're arguing. So, but they're human beings, and Yedaina has their own idea of what a davar chashuv is. What's chashuv means a chashuv to you. So therefore, you have an argument of what is a davar chashuv, and therefore you have to come to halacha of what it actually the halacha is. But that's where the argument comes from. Yeah. Oh, so here we have right away we go into the idea on Shabbos. Tana, we learned in Abraisa ha'noitel meloi pi azug. If someone takes a scissor and cuts an amount with the scissor, right? He cuts here with a scissor on Shabbos. Chayiv, he has to bring a chatas, right? This is if he did it inadvertently, he has to bring a chatas. Kama meloi pi azug. So obviously, how much? What's the amount, right? Amar Rav Yehuda shtayim. Rav Yehuda says if he cut 2 hairs, so that's already considered to be cutting on Shabbos. Vatanya. But didn't we learn that likar, the end of that brisa, it says, but likarcha, it's two. That when it comes to karcha, then it's two. So what do we learn from there? What do we learn from there? That for Shabbos, it has to be more. The Mishnah over there, the brisa over there says that Shabbos, if you cut the amount of a scissor, you're liable, right? But for karcha, it has to be two hairs. So now, but now you're telling me that the scissor is also two hairs, so then the brisa doesn't make sense, right? So the Gemara answers no. That really the brisa says that also for karcha. It says by Shabbos it brings up a scissor, but then for karcha it says also two hairs, right? So here we have this idea of two hairs. So Tanya Nami Hachi, and the Gemara continues that we learned similarly. If someone takes into scissors, he cuts with scissors b'Shabbos chayiv, he's liable. Chayiv, in this case, liable for achatos when he did it inadvertently. And how much is it? That's two hairs. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer achas. Rabbi Eliezer says no. Even if you cut only one hair, and don't think the halacha is like him. The halacha is that it's two hairs. That the Chachamim admit to Rabbi Eliezer, if he's going to cut out the white out of the black. If someone's going white, I haven't had that schus yet. Hopefully not for a long time. All right, but if someone starts to go white, what happens? Let me pull it out. Right? There's a shliach here in Montreal that many years ago. He used to go on secret missions to the USSR. I might have told you this story. He used to go and sneak in tefillin. He used to sneak in. You're talking about in the 80s, right? In the 80s, late 80s was like a big thing. The Rebbe used to send people undercover. They all knew, the KGB knew that they were doing this, but you needed a good story. So he came, so like for example, he told me, he came with a suitcase and there was a bunch of pairs of tefillin inside. So I asked him, what's this? He says, I have to put on tefillin. He says, well, yeah, but what do you need 7? Every day of the week I need a different one. Like that. They knew he was hacking at Chinese because they would follow them and they would know that they would meet up with the Chassidim, etc. But still, anyways, so one time he was bringing through ink because they would ask for things, right? So they needed ink to write on parchment to fix a Sefer Torah, to fix a pair of tefillin, and they needed ink. There's black ink. And they that's this vial of ink. So what's this ink? I'm starting to go white, and if I come home with a white hair, my wife won't let me into the house. Every time I see white hair, I paint it. So he told me this, just reminded me of this story. Today he's white. Yeah. So going back to the idea of davar chashuv, right? A white hair is a davar chashuv. Not only is it a davar chashuv, afilu achas shu chayiv, that he's liable even for one. Why? Davar zeh. And he can so he's liable for even one. Why? Because it's important to him. He doesn't want that white hair. So even one hair is already important to him. So on Shabbos, you're not allowed to do that, right? But then it continues with davar zeh. But this idea of schlepping out a white hair, schlepping out a white hair from amongst the black hairs, I feel b'chayil aser. Not even allowed to do it on a weekday. Why not allowed to do it on a weekday? Mishum shenemer leilbash gever simul slisha sevai b'shein yanim. It's a women's thing to care about your hair this way. It's vain. It's vain. For women, it's good. For women, it's good. It's okay. But you're not allowed to cross dress, right? Where does it come? You're not allowed to cross dress. That's lo yilbash. You're not allowed to. Men do their things. Women do their things. That's the way. That's the way the Torah wants it. That's the way, the moral way of living, right? And we shouldn't mix those things. So things that are unique to women, laws is by saying, so the halach is that you're not even allowed to pull out a white hair during the week. Shabbos for sure not. But during the week, why? It's a woman's.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop there.